Well, it was a happy childhood. Well, my dad went off with this other woman and it got better. He left my mother in a tied cottage, and the council put us in a nissen hut that was on top of the hills above the Bristol Channel. My siblings were put into various children's homes because my mother couldn't manage on her own, and I was fostered, not very nice. And then my mother got a council house in High Green. I had to leave school, I was 15, and I got a job at Wancliffe Silks and Colliery, working up pit top, and I was entitled to a ton of free coal a month, which was a big thing for her because she couldn't afford it. So that meant I had to stop in pit to look after my mother in her plight and my siblings, which I didn't mind. At 18, went on face because I was given a job as a belt flitter, which meant as the coal advanced, I was moving the belts up. I was cutting lumps out of this belt and putting joints on with Hayden Eilers jointing machine. And the belts were flame-proof. If they were flame-proof, they were asbestos. Now, we were not aware of the dangers of asbestos. Nobody at NCB told us it were dangerous. When I was 27, I went to another firm called Descaling Contractors. Now, I was vacuuming dust from boilers, big boilers, bigger than this room, huge boilers. There were a lot of it must have been asbestos because it were everywhere. It was my job to take the lorry that sucked it all up, a ton of dust in there. I had to go up to the tip and open the hoppers and drop out, and it went everywhere, as well as on me. But the worst bit was the filters, because there was a big pan underneath each filter that we had to unlock and pull out, and that was really fine dust. That went everywhere. The masks couldn't stop it. We could have as many of these masks as we wanted, but they're only like a gauze thing that fitted on an aluminium frame, which had elastic bands. And on these masks, it said on plain as day, for nuisance dust only. So we could see that, so we just put them on and breathed all what we were working in. Retirement was approaching fast because I was about 64, and I met Marie. I said to Marie one day, I'm going to sell my council house, I'm going to buy a narrowboat, and I'm going to live on it for the rest of my life. And we bought a brand new narrowboat. And after that, we'd cruise around the country every summer. We'd been on every canal in the country. And in the winter, I had to start refitting. I was busy all winter. And then we were off again next summer. I was going on for 80. I realised I couldn't breathe very well. Pushing them big lock gates around was getting too much for me. And I thought that's odd because I've always been a big, strong lad. I went to my doctor, says, I'll send you for an x-ray. They had a look at it and they says, there's no sign of asbestosis out here. But I was still gasping. I said, well, there bloody is something there. And so I had to sell the boat. Well, it was a hard decision, but Marie fought against it. But I said, no, I can't do this. I can't breathe when I'm working them locks. So I went to the doctor and he says, oh, well, there's something wrong with your breathing. I'll send you to x-ray. And they decided I've got asbestos plaques. I could do anything at one time. I'd tackle out, and now I can't tackle anything. I can't even drive. My wife won't let me drive. She thinks I'm no good. And I have to rely on her to drive me anywhere I want to go now. My family all love me to death, and they'll do what I want because they think I'm great. Probably I was, but I'm not now. So I've got to rely on other people. It's not what I've been used to all my life. It makes me feel useless. The lads I worked with underground, probably all gone now, because I'm 86 and they were middle-aged men when I worked there. But the men who worked with me at Descaling Contractors, they were only my age. They worked in the same conditions that I worked in. I sometimes wonder where they are and what they're doing. I'm knackered now and I don't like it, but I've got to lump it. I want my last legs. Well, you've got to accept it. It's part of life, isn't it?
Some people have bought what they call a silver spoon in their mouth. Some people have dragged up from gutters. That's life. Just get on with it. My first marriage broke down because he thought more of fishing his mates and going out. and I'd just had enough. I slept in my car for 2 or 3 weeks and then went to live with my aunt in Sheffield. My daughter, she just says, take me with you. I had nowhere to take her. So I left her and got myself another job, pulled my socks up and carried on. My second husband were a bit handy with his fists. Council put me in a secure flat, just carried on working and doing best I could. My next eldest son, he was 17 when he got killed at work. And my youngest son, he died at 7 weeks. I've been going up to the cemetery, 40 odd years, and it still hurts. Well, I've known Ken for at least 50 years or over. He was his next door neighbour. He was married to Jean, he'd 4 children. And when he worked away, I used to help Jean, because I'd only like 2 kids. We always got on as a family, like next door neighbours should do. We enjoyed each other's company. I understood him. It was just like talking to a big brother at that time. And then when Jean passed away, we just used to sit talking club, enjoying, each other's company. Friendship just built and built. And then eventually, when we were both on our own, and just one thing led to another. It went from being like friends, great friends, to companions, as you call it, or even boyfriend, girlfriend in them days. And we've been together about 30 years nearly. He got to 80 and then bang, went a heart attack. I thought, oh God, he's died on me. And then they put him a pacemaker in. And then we went to hospital for a checkup on his monitor and his lungs and things. This young doctor says, oh, by the way, you've got pleural plaques through asbestosis. Shown us x-rays on thing, and it went 3/4 of the way round left lung. He says, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Ken looked at me and I looked at him and he says, well, how long does that give me then? I says, if he's going to drop dead when I walk out of here, as soon as you told me, then I know what to expect. I've always been positive that way. We went home and we talked about it 2 or 3, 5, 10 minutes. I says, I tell you what we will do. I says, we'll sort out funerals. We did the usual things. We went to funeral directors and picked us own coffins and everything, which were good because they taught you through things. It's just something that you have to really get into your own head that everybody's going to die eventually. It's just a matter of when. He says, right. I says, and then we'll enjoy ourselves for what time we've got left. And that's what we're doing. He says, oh, by the way, he says, I've signed a red form. I says, a red form? What for? He says, I've told them not to resuscitate me. I says, oh, why didn't you tell me? He says, well, I thought you'd object. I says, no, if that's your wishes, if you don't want to be resuscitated, I says, fair enough. I said, well, why don't you want to be? He says, because I don't want to come back as a cabbage. I says, well, fair enough then. If that's your wishes, I will abide by it. I think people should talk about things like that. But in fact, I wouldn't want him to suffer. I've seen suffering. I know what suffering looks like. So I'm as bed-burnt as scalded. Talk about it, get the ins and outs of it, then get on with your life. And just hope for the best it doesn't happen sooner rather than later. And enjoy life to the full. A lot of stuff goes over here now. Over years it's made me stronger. It takes a lot to faze me. You've got to be prepared for these sort of things. I think it's just my way.